What's going on? It's Ballistic, Ballistic Beats, BLysticProductions.com. Checking back in. Been using this MacBook Air M1 a little bit over a month now. So I just thought I'd do one more video and follow up on like what I think now after actually using it. My last videos, I did have a good gauge of it, but I had only had it for a few days. But now it's been the only computer I've really been using outside of my desktop for like an hour or so per day. But for the most part, I've been around the house, spending a lot more time out of my studio using that M1. So the first thing that I really want to say is when I first got it, there was almost no compatibility outside of the Apple software, and Chrome had already put an update out, so it was running natively for M1 and just a couple other things. But like I said, like Logic and all that kind of stuff mainly, and that's what I use as far as doing music. But now a lot of updates have come out, things are working, so it's a lot more promising. It was promising then, but now it's kind of just taking off, because the big thing with music is my Apollo interface wasn't working with it. But UAD has put out an update, and their interfaces are now available for macOS Big Sur. There is a disclaimer on the site that says it's still not compatible with M1 Macs, but I used it on my M1 Mac. I made a beat, I listened to iTunes and just did all types of different tests with the inputs and outputs. I used my sense on it, and it works. It works just as normal as it would if it was native, and I'm sure that's coming too. Apple's a big company, so anything that's not running natively already, I would be really confident to just think that it is gonna be coming soon, because who doesn't want their products on Apple? As far as speed, I have all these other computers, a Razer Blade 2020 15-inch with an i7 10th gen, 32 gigs of RAM, 4 terabyte SSD, all of that in there, and I've still been using the Mac more. My desktop has a i9 9900K, 32 gigs of RAM, bunch of storage, all that, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on any of that power by using the MacBook Air M1. I'm just kind of going off of things that I heard over time, like, so sorry if I'm rambling a little bit or jumping around. One of the biggest questions that I get on Facebook, in my DMs and all that, and comments, is people wondering if 8 gigs is enough, or people just saying that 8 gigs isn't enough based on their previous knowledge of 8 gigabytes of RAM in any other Mac or Windows PC computer or whatnot. I don't work for Apple. I don't know the technical whatever went into it. I only know what they said and what I've experienced by using this computer over time. And I can say that I have the 8 gig version with 512 gigs of RAM, so it's 8 cores CPU, 8 core GPU. But that 8 gigs, I don't feel like I can do any less than I can on those other computers that I have that have 32 gigs. Of course, I can do more with those other computers if I pushed it that hard, but just on what I actually do in a real world scenario, I haven't run into any blocks. Before this Mac, I did have a 2015 MacBook Pro 13-inch i5. That had 8 gigs of RAM. From 2015, 16, 17-ish, it was working fine. Around 2017, like a little bit, I started doing a little bit more video work and stuff like that, and it did start to kind of stutter, give me the rainbow wheel and stuff a lot more. And this 8 gigs is not that 8 gigs. So don't listen to people that haven't actually used one telling you that the 8 gig model isn't enough, because trust me, it's not the 8 gigs that you're used to. Like, it's a different scale now. It's like a completely different graph of how you're gonna track and figure out what 8 gigs of this memory is in this platform. The whole system on the chip thing, it pretty much means that the CPU, the RAM, GPU, all of that is on one chip. So basically it doesn't have to travel as far, like the information doesn't have to travel as far for the RAM to be utilized or whatever. Like I said, I didn't create it. I can't go into like this many billion, this whatever Apple be talking about. But I can say, like, I do understand the fact that it's utilized differently. It doesn't travel as far. Stuff is a lot snappier. 8 gigs will feel like 16 gigs or a little bit more in most of the things that you do, and that's just that. Another thing that was limiting were the apps that are optimized. So like I was saying, I feel like everybody is gonna jump on and get things optimized as soon as possible. As far as video editing, it didn't take long at all for Adobe Premiere to become optimized for the M1. I think it's like a beta version or something, but it works, and it took the performance up a lot compared to how it was working when I first got it. When I first got it, I was still going to my other computers as far as exporting video because they were dusting it. So it's like actually doing the work and scrolling through, scrubbing through video and stuff, it was working normally as far as how it would on any other computer. But when it came time to render and export, that's when you really realize that it wasn't optimized or whatnot. But yeah, now Adobe, they're working on the Photoshop. Premiere has a beta out, and it's going okay. Another one, as far as music and music production, Native Instruments, their stuff wasn't working on it. Now the Native Access and Native Instruments plugins, the whole complete is ready, it is working, and that is awesome as well. So basically now all the VSTs that I use for my audio, all the Native Instruments stuff, so the mixing stuff and all that is good to go. So I can definitely get a lot more done and back away from the desktop even more. My goal isn't to back away from it, but it is nice to have such a small package to be able to move around, not worry about battery power, fans, or none of that. Is amazing. Speaking of battery power, the battery power is amazing. I have heard that the MacBook Pro does get like 2 or 3 more hours of battery or whatnot, which is even more amazing. But when you consider that the MacBook Air is already going to give you a lot more battery power than probably any other laptop that you can come across or that you're probably considering, it's amazing in itself. They claim around 18 hours of battery or whatnot, and you can very well get really close to that. I've went several days without charging it. That's just doing like website maintenance, doing a little bit of graphic design in Photoshop, like creating merch and stuff like that, watching YouTube and listening to podcasts and stuff like that in the background. But it really will, you're probably not gonna use half the battery in the day, and that's just a fact. The crazy thing is you can leave it on overnight and you may lose like 2% of battery, and that is amazing. It pretty much runs like an iPad or iPhone runs as far as how much battery is being used at a time, but it also has more battery power available than an iPad or an iPhone. I'm just going off the top of my head, so I don't have any notes or anything, but as far as who I feel like this laptop is for, if you are in the market for a MacBook of any type or an Apple computer, I would definitely consider the MacBook Air. As my first recommendation would be the MacBook Air to anybody, even over the Mac Mini, because with the MacBook Air, you can plug it into your monitor if you want to. but you also have the portability to take it around and utilize that battery power for real. The Mac Mini is cool if you definitely know that you don't need the portability and you're just looking for something at a desk setup, because that's a few $100s cheaper. The MacBook Pro, if you know for sure that you want to get one of these and you will be doing some heavy, like really heavy video editing and stuff, and I mean over 4K. If you're doing 4K, the Air is fine, but if you're gonna be doing 6K or some real cinematography with cinema cameras and all of that, then you may want to get the MacBook Pro, because that rendering and that exporting is gonna take a little bit more of a toll, and it's probably gonna need the fan a little bit. That's another thing cool about the Air. It doesn't have a fan and it's just super quiet. So coming from a gaming laptop and things like that, you don't have to worry about the surface you put it on. You can drop it on the bed. Don't worry about blocking no vents or nothing. And it just stays completely cool. Anyway, back to who it's for. If you're in the market for a Mac and you're gonna keep it for several years, I would definitely recommend the Air or the Pro, and you probably want to get 16 gigs of RAM, not because you need it, but because it'll future-proof it or whatnot. I got it just to test it out, to do some content, and I wanted something outside of my Razer that will let me just feel a little bit more comfortable holding it, because the battery life and just, like I say, the gaming laptop is so beefy and so loud and heavy, and the power brick is heavy, and it's just a lot. So also one of the big things, if you're considering getting one, definitely look into all the apps that you use right now. If there's anything that you can't live without, or if you don't have another computer that can run that thing, you probably don't want to jump into the M1 area right now, because if something's completely not compatible, there really isn't a timeline of when it will be. I feel confident that it will be soon, but I don't know, so you gotta do what's good for you. If you do have another computer and there's like, it's a transition of just wanting something more powerful, but your old computer still works, you probably want to go ahead and consider one. Like, why not? I feel like it's the future. I'm sure Windows and other manufacturers are gonna jump on and just kind of change their chipsets and probably use ARM more and System on a Chip too. Windows did it, they have one. It didn't work out that great, but I know they're revisiting it. So I think this is just where computing and everything is going. So I definitely recommend it. All in all, I don't know how long this was. I know I rambled a little bit. I'm all over the place because I just trying to think of as much as I can about this laptop and give my opinion about it. But I definitely say I have no complaints about it at all. It may not be the same for you, but for my workflow, what I need it for, it did nothing but help. It helped me become more productive because it goes places my other computers don't go. So I don't know. I just wanted to give an update real quick. So if this helped you at all, if it helped you make a decision, you can use one of my links in the description to check the availability and the price of the MacBook. Also hit the subscribe button regardless if you're gonna buy one or not. If I helped you, if you interested in what I got going on at all, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment, ask me questions. I try to answer them. Follow me on my socials, at BLysticProductions on Instagram, at Ballistic on Twitter. Find me, follow me, holla at me. Till next time, y'all hold it down.